I bought the house on a cloudy Tuesday in October. It was the kind of fall day where the wind carried that earthy scent of dying leaves, and the sky hung low and gray like a wet blanket draped over the town. The place was a two-story colonial tucked away at the end of Oldergrove Lane, a forgotten stretch of cracked pavement that curled into the woods like a crooked finger. The real estate agent kept saying things like, full of potential, and, needs a little love, which I've since learned are euphemisms for no one else will touch it. But I didn't care. I'd just gone through a rough divorce, lost most of what I'd built, and was clawing for a fresh start. The price was right. Too right. I should have known. The first thing that struck me, even before I set foot inside, was the silence. Not peaceful silence, dead silence. No birds. No rustling. Just wind. Even when the agent turned the key and pushed the door open, the house didn't creak. No moan of old wood. Nothing. Just emptiness. And yet, the moment I stepped inside, I swear to God it felt like something noticed me. I shook it off. Told myself I was just being dramatic, letting my nerves mess with me. Divorce and a new life can do that to you. The house was dusty, but intact. A wide staircase greeted you from the foyer, and an ancient chandelier hung above like a dead spider wrapped in cobwebs. To the right was a study with wood-paneled walls and a fireplace full of ash. To the left, a parlor with lace curtains that hadn't been touched in years. It smelled like time had forgotten this place. Old pine. Mold. A trace of something sweeter underneath, like flowers rotting in a locked room. I moved in that weekend. No furniture yet, just an air mattress and a few essentials. The silence stayed with me. At night, it got so thick it almost hummed in my ears. The kind of quiet where you can hear your own heartbeat and the ticking of the clock makes you flinch. On my third night, I heard the scratching. I just turned off the bedside lamp and pulled the blanket over my head like I used to as a kid. I don't know why, I wasn't scared, not really. But something about the way the house sat heavy on my chest made me want to shrink away. And then it started. Soft, rhythmic scratching. Like nails across old wood. Not a rat, not that quick, scampering chaos. This was deliberate. Slow. A claw dragging along a surface. It came from inside the wall, just behind my head. I told myself it was the pipes. Settling noises. Drywall expanding. I even got out of bed and knocked on the wall. Nothing responded. But when I turned off the light again, the scratching started once more. And then, just before I drifted off to an uneasy sleep, I thought I heard a whisper. Not a word. Just a breath. Like someone was trying to say something, but the words hadn't yet formed. The next morning, I pulled up the carpet in the bedroom, half expecting to find claw marks in the floorboards. There weren't any. But I did find something else. Tucked under a loose plank near the window was an old silver locket. I pried it open with a knife and found a photo inside. A girl, maybe 10 or 11, with wide eyes and a smile that didn't quite reach them. Her hair was in pigtails. The background behind her was unmistakably this house. There was a date scratched into the back. October 12, 1979. I stared at it for a long while, rubbing the cool metal between my fingers. Something about the girl's expression unsettled me. Not fear, more like resignation. Like she'd seen something, accepted something no child should have to. That night, I put the locket on the nightstand beside me. The scratching came again. Only this time, it didn't stop after a few minutes. It got louder. And closer. And just when I thought I could no longer pretend it was in my imagination, I heard a voice. A girl's voice. Faint, just behind the wall. Let me out. I didn't sleep that night. After I heard the girl's voice, those three chilling words, let me out, I sat bolt upright and turned on every light I could reach. My heart was hammering so hard I swear I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. I waited, breath shallow, staring at the wall like it might open its mouth and speak again. But the silence returned. That awful, bloated quiet. The locket sat motionless on the nightstand, reflecting the yellow glow of the lamp. I picked it up, hands trembling, and studied it again, looking for anything I might have missed. But there was nothing new. Just the girl's eyes, wide and glassy, staring right back at me. The next morning, I tore open that wall. I grabbed a crowbar from the garage and went at it, knocking plaster loose in chunks. Old insulation spilled out, brittle and discolored. I dug with my hands once I got past the wood, pulling until I reached the beams. But there was nothing there. No hollow space. No passage. No skeletons. Just dust and cobwebs and silence. But that night, it spoke again. This time, I heard scratching from two directions, the wall behind my head and from under the floor. And then, knocking. One knock, soft and tentative. Then two. Then three. Like someone was tapping from beneath the house. I lost it. Threw on a hoodie, grabbed a flashlight, and marched into the crawl space beneath the house, nearly twisting my ankle as I wedged myself between ancient beams and damp dirt. The air down there smelled like mildew and copper, like old blood and broken promises. My beam of light caught movement for just a second. A blur. Low to the ground. But it was gone before I could even shout. When I crawled back out, I was shaking. Covered in grime. No closer to an answer. But the next day, the next day, I found the door. It was in the attic. A part of the house I hadn't bothered exploring yet. The previous owner had left behind a mountain of junk up there, moldy boxes, rusted tools, a busted rocking horse that still creaked when you looked at it wrong. But in the far corner, behind an old wardrobe, I noticed a sliver of a seam in the wall. Just barely visible. I moved the wardrobe, no small task by myself, and found a narrow door. It wasn't on the house's blueprint. The wood was swollen from moisture, and there was no knob, just a rusted latch. I pried it open, heart thundering, and was greeted by darkness. The air that spilled out hit me like a breath from the grave. Cold, stale, ancient. I aimed my flashlight inside. And that's when I saw the room. It wasn't big. Maybe 8 by 8. No windows. Just 4 walls covered in something that looked like soot or old handprints. And there, in the center, was a small, child-sized chair. Facing the wall. I stepped inside. It felt like walking into a scream. The second my foot touched the floor, the door slammed shut behind me. I turned, shouting, fumbling for the latch, but it was gone. I swear on everything, it was gone. The wall was solid now, as if the door had never existed. The flashlight flickered. Then went out. And I wasn't alone anymore. There was breathing in that room. Shallow. Fast. Ragged. A child's breath. I pressed myself against the wall, trying not to hyperventilate, when I heard it. A whisper, inches from my ear. He sees you now. I don't remember how I got out. I don't remember the door reopening or stumbling back down the attic stairs. But when I came to, I was sitting on the floor of the hallway outside the attic, with the locket in my hand, though I swear I left it in my bedroom. And scratched into the wall beside me, in jagged, shaking lines, was a message. Do not stay here. I should have left right then and there. Any sane person would have. But grief has a way of making you reckless. The house became my distraction, my obsession, a puzzle box of creaks, whispers, and secrets no one wanted to hear. The morning after the attic incident, I packed a duffel bag and swore to get out. But something stopped me. It wasn't just fear. It wasn't logic, either. It was like the house itself held me in place. I took one last look around. And I noticed something strange in the upstairs hallway, the wallpaper. Now, this place hadn't been updated since Disco died. The paper was yellowed, peeling at the corners, little Victorian flowers faded into oblivion. But in the right light, if you stared just long enough, you could make out a face. A small one. Pressed beneath the pattern, like someone had leaned against the wall and screamed into it. A child's face. Mouth open. Eyes wide. Frozen in the wallpaper. I leaned in close, fingers trembling, and ran my hand over the image. The second I touched it, the house shuddered. A low groan, like a dying breath echoing through the bones of the walls. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just hearing the house anymore. I was in conversation with it. I started digging. Went to the county office, pulled every record I could on 143, Oldergrove Lane. Turned out the property had changed hands 6 times in 40 years. Each time it sold cheap. Each time it ended in tragedy. In 1980, a man hung himself in the basement. The next family's son went missing in 91, never found. The couple that moved in after that? Murder-suicide. No explanation, no signs of violence before. Just blood and silence. The last owner was a reclusive woman named Lillian Hargrove. I found her obituary online. Died in her sleep 3 years ago. No children. No surviving relatives. But the photo of her? I swear, it was the same little girl from the locket. A few decades older, sure. But the eyes, those were the same eyes. I went back to the house. And the face in the wallpaper had moved. It was lower now. Pressed near the floorboards. The mouth was still open, but now the lips curled downward. Not fear. Agony. I backed away slowly, and that's when I saw the smudges. Tiny, blackened handprints. All along the hallway wall. Trailing into the master bedroom. That night, I made the mistake of sleeping in my bed again. I woke up at exactly 3:11 a.m. Not from a noise, but from cold fingers wrapping around my ankle. I bolted upright, heart galloping, and saw her, the girl from the photo, standing at the foot of the bed. Hair matted. Skin pale as parchment. Her eyes locked to mine, wide and glassy like a doll's. She didn't move. Didn't blink. She just whispered. "He's coming." The light flickered. And behind her, just for a split second, I saw something else. A shape. Tall. Thin. Wrapped in shadows like they were a part of its body. No face. Just the suggestion of something wrong. It stood behind her like a marionettist with his puppet. And then they were gone. No fanfare. No scream. Just vanished into the dark. I sat there until dawn, hugging my knees like a child, the taste of iron on my tongue and the air too heavy to breathe. The next day, I tore the wallpaper down. Every strip of it. Fingernails broken, bleeding, hands raw. I ripped until the floral patterns gave way to cracked plaster and stains that wouldn't come out. Behind one panel, I found words carved into the wall. "The girl isn't who she pretends to be." There were more words, too. Names. Dates. Some scratched so deep they tore through the lath. Others faint, like the writer had been too tired to finish. And then, beneath all of it, in jagged childlike script. "Don't look at his face." I didn't want to go into the basement. No part of me did. But by then, the house wasn't asking anymore. It was calling. That evening, around dusk, I noticed the air in the house shift, like the walls themselves exhaled. All the lights flickered, then dimmed to a low, sputtering glow. The kind you see just before a bulb dies. And the whispering? It came back. Only this time, it was everywhere. Above me, beneath me, behind me. 1,000 murmurs slipping through cracks and corners. They weren't words. Not exactly. More like please. I stood at the top of the basement stairs with a flashlight in one hand and the locket in the other. The door creaked open on its own. No wind. Just pressure. Like the house was breathing me in. The staircase groaned under my weight as I descended. The bulb at the bottom, the one that never worked before, was glowing dim red, like an eye blinking awake. The steps were damp. Smelled like mold and rust. And then my flashlight died. Of course it did. But I didn't go back up. I couldn't. The basement was bigger than it should have been. Deeper. Like I was walking into something carved out, not built. The walls were stone. Rough. Wet in places. There were scratches on them, long, deep gouges that spiraled like something had been trying to claw its way out. Or maybe, in. I turned a corner and found the chair. The same child-sized chair from the attic. Except now, it was soaked in something dark. Thick. I didn't need a test to know what it was. Blood has a smell. Metallic. Sickly sweet. Familiar, if you've ever seen too much of it at once. And behind it, etched into the stone, was a doorframe. No door. Just a rectangular gap in the wall. Black as pitch. I should have run. Should have torched the whole damn place. But something moved in the darkness. A sound, like wet paper being torn. And then, I saw him. He wasn't tall. Not anymore. His body was contorted, bent backwards in places where backs don't bend. His skin was stretched tight over bones that jutted like knives. No eyes. No mouth. Just the outline of a face, as if it had been drawn onto skin and left to fade. And yet somehow, I could feel him grinning. I turned to run. But the doorway had closed. No latch. No seam. Just solid stone now. The air grew thick. The whispers stopped. And he spoke. But it wasn't out loud. His voice scraped the inside of my skull like broken glass. You looked at her. She brought you to me. My knees gave out. I hit the floor hard, bile rising in my throat. She was mine. Always mine. But she left. She tried to forget. His shadow fell over me. Now you'll remember for her. And then. Darkness. I woke up in my bed. It was morning. Sunlight streamed through the windows. The birds were singing. For the first time since I moved in, the house was quiet. The locket was gone. I walked downstairs, slowly, bracing myself for something, anything. But it all looked normal. Except the basement door. It was sealed shut. Not locked. Sealed. No doorknob. No hinges. Just smooth, painted drywall where a door used to be. Like it had never been there. I ran to the attic. The hidden room. Gone. Just insulation and dust behind the wall now. The chair. Missing. And the wallpaper in the hallway. Reapplied. Clean. Fresh. No faces. No stains. I might have thought I'd lost my mind. But then, I looked in the mirror. And scratched into my neck, faint but undeniable, were 4 words. Don't look at him. I didn't leave the house that day. I tried. I packed my bag, got in the car, and even started the engine. But I couldn't bring myself to put it in drive. My hands trembled on the wheel like I was steering a hearse. And in the rearview mirror, through the back window of the house, I saw someone watching me from the upstairs bedroom. The room I'd locked. The one with the locket. I killed the engine and went back inside. Because whatever had followed me up from that basement, it hadn't left. That night, I dreamt of mirrors. The kind that don't reflect the room behind you. The kind that show you things you're not meant to see. I was walking through the house in the dream, but it wasn't the same anymore. It was warped. Longer halls. Too many stairs. Rooms looping into themselves like a maze drawn by a madman. In every room, a mirror. Tall and narrow. Black frame. No reflection. Just eyes. Dozens of them. Watching. Blinking. Moving behind the glass like they were trapped beneath the surface. I woke up at 3:11 a.m. Again. This time, my bathroom mirror was covered in handprints. Small ones. Children's. Some smeared. One perfect, right in the center. And beneath it, written in condensation. Say my name. Now, here's where things really began to fracture. I started seeing myself in places I wasn't. I'd walk past a hallway mirror and catch a glimpse of my face turn just a little too slow. Or see my reflection blink when I hadn't. Once, I looked into the foyer mirror and saw myself smiling, even though my face was stone still. That smile didn't stop. Didn't fade. It just watched me. And when I looked away, I could still feel it watching. I tried covering the mirrors. Towels, sheets, blankets. But the next morning, all of it was on the floor. Folded. Neatly. As if someone had tucked them away politely. So I smashed them. All of them. 7 mirrors in total. The last one, the one in the upstairs bedroom, refused to break. The hammer bounced off it like it hit rubber. Not even a crack. And when I leaned in close, breathing heavy, I saw something standing behind me. Not me. Not anymore. I left the room and slammed the door. That's when I heard it for the first time. A game. A challenge. A voice in the walls whispering. Say her name, and she'll return. Win the mirror game, and you walk free. Lose. The whisper turned into a sound like teeth chattering. You belong to him now. I remembered the photo. The girl. Lillian. So I said it. Out loud. Into the mirror. Lillian Hargrove. The house went still. Then the lights blew out. And in the glass, a girl appeared. Lillian. Younger now. The same girl from the locket. Her pigtails were soaked, her eyes pale and cloudy. She raised one finger and pointed at me. Then her voice echoed through the entire house. 3 mirrors. 3 trials. You must win them all. The hallway mirror reassembled itself before my eyes, its shards crawling up the wall like beetles. Trial 1 had begun. The hallway mirror shimmered like it was underwater. My reflection rippled, distorted, until it vanished altogether, leaving only that dark, glassy surface. It pulsed, like a heartbeat behind the wall. Then the whisper came again. Step through. Trial 1. I didn't want to. Hell, I didn't mean to. But my feet moved anyway. Like the floor had tilted forward, nudging me toward the frame. I reached out, fingers brushing the surface. And it gave. Like water. Passing through the mirror wasn't like walking into another room. It was like being sucked into a memory that didn't belong to me. I found myself standing in a bedroom I'd never seen before. Not in this house, not anywhere. Child-sized. Pale pink wallpaper, peeling at the corners. A dresser covered in dusty porcelain dolls. And a bed, tucked into the far wall, with a headboard carved to look like twisting vines. Something about that headboard made my stomach churn. And sitting on the bed, was Lillian. Not the ghost. Not the girl from the locket. A real child. Alive. Breathing. She looked up at me and smiled. Do you want to play hide and seek? She asked. Her voice was small. Flat. Sure, I said, before I even realized I was speaking. Her smile widened. Good. You count to 10. Don't peek. She climbed off the bed and vanished behind the door. I turned toward the wall and began counting. The moment I said 10, the room changed. It decayed. The air turned cold. The wallpaper blackened, curling away from the wall like scorched paper. The dolls' faces cracked and split, their painted eyes leaking something thick and black. I turned around slowly. The bed was gone. The dresser. Rotting. And the door Lillian had gone through, it wasn't a door anymore. Just a stretch of wall. No seams. No frame. Like she'd never passed through. Then I heard it. A soft, wet giggling. Coming from inside the walls. I ran my hands along the surface, looking for a latch, a loose board, anything. The room had no windows. No other way out. The lights flickered, though I didn't remember there being lights, and when they came back on, Lillian was back. Only, not as a girl. She was taller. Thinner. Her arms too long. Her mouth too wide. Her pigtails hung in matted ropes, dripping with something black. You cheated, she hissed. You peeked. I didn't. I shouted, stepping backward. But the wall was gone. The whole room had dissolved into mist, and we were floating in a black void now, me, and the thing that had once been Lillian. You have to follow the rules, she whispered. Then she lunged. I fell backward, and hit the floor of the hallway with a thud. Back in the house. Sprawled in front of the mirror. Covered in dust and sweat and something cold and wet that I couldn't identify. My breathing was ragged. My hands trembled. But I was alive. And scratched into the wood beside the mirror was a single word. Winner. Trial 1, passed. But the house wasn't done. Because the next mirror, the one in the dining room, was glowing. Faintly. Like a warning. Like an open eye. And somewhere upstairs, the floorboards creaked, followed by a dragging sound. Heavy. Uneven. Something was moving again. And it wasn't me. I didn't go to the dining room right away. I sat there in the hallway for a long while, staring at the glowing mirror. The word winner carved into the floor beside it felt less like a victory and more like a warning. My arms were still trembling. My shirt stuck to my back. I could taste metal in my mouth, fear, maybe. Or blood. I couldn't tell anymore. But eventually. I stood up. And I went to the dining room. Because the game hadn't ended. And the house doesn't forget. The dining room looked the same as always, if a bit darker. The chandelier above the long wooden table swayed, ever so slightly, though there wasn't a breeze to be found. The table was set now, too. Plates. Glasses. Forks arranged perfectly. Silver glinted under the flickering overhead bulb. Except, there was dust on everything. Thick, undisturbed dust. Like it had been set, and then never touched again. At the far end of the room was the mirror. Tall. Oval. Framed in dark iron. Its surface rippled like a pool stirred by unseen fingers. I approached it slowly. And this time, the whisper didn't come from the mirror. It came from the chair at the head of the table. Sit down, a voice rasped. I froze. Sit. The guest is waiting. Against every shred of instinct in my body, I obeyed. I sat. The second I did, the mirror flashed bright white. A blinding pulse of light, then it settled again, glowing faint and red. I blinked spots from my vision. When they cleared, there was someone sitting across from me. I hadn't heard them come in. The chair hadn't scraped. They were just there. The guest. They wore an old-fashioned black suit. The fabric was worn, threadbare in spots. Their hands were gloved, resting politely on the table. Their face, though. I couldn't focus on it. My eyes slipped off it, like oil on water. It was a blur. A smear. As if their features had been wiped from memory. And when they spoke, the voice came from inside my head. You are not welcome here. I didn't mean to. But you entered. You took what was not yours. I didn't respond. There was nothing I could say. My mouth was dry. My spine felt frozen in place. There is only one way to leave now. The guest reached into their coat pocket and drew out a small hourglass. The sand inside was black. It began to fall, slow and deliberate. Answer 3 questions. Fail, and remain here. Forever. The lights dimmed. The air thickened. A clock I couldn't see began to tick. Question 1. What is her name? That one was easy. Lillian Hargrove. The guest tilted its head. The hourglass kept falling. Question 2. What does she regret? I froze. In all the horrors, all the whispers and warped reflections, I had never once considered what she was running from. But then I remembered the first whisper from the walls. The message behind the wallpaper. She isn't who she pretends to be. I took a breath. She regrets leaving him behind, I said. She escaped the house, and left something in it. A pause. Then, a nod. The final grain of sand hit the bottom. And the guest spoke again. Question 3. The only one that matters. Why you? Why me? I didn't know. I was just some broken guy who wanted to start over. Some half-ghost of a man trying to outrun his own past. I didn't belong in this story. I wasn't a chosen one. I wasn't special. But maybe that's exactly why. Because I don't matter, I said, voice low. Because I was empty enough for the house to fill. The guest sat motionless for a moment. Then it reached forward and flipped the hourglass. Backward. The sand rose, climbing in reverse. The lights came back. The mirror glowed again, brighter now, inviting. You may go, the voice said. And just like that, the guest was gone. I stood up on shaking legs, walked to the mirror, and stepped through. Back into the house. Back into the game. I was in the foyer again now. And the third mirror, the one I'd forgotten existed, was waiting at the top of the stairs. It hadn't been there before. A full-length mirror. Twisted gold frame. Black glass. And carved into its surface, 3 words. Final trial begins. I stood at the foot of the staircase, staring up at the final mirror. It loomed like a guillotine. Gold frame warped by age and rot. The glass wasn't reflective, not like the others. It was deep black, darker than night. It didn't ripple or shimmer. It just waited. My legs moved without permission. Each step creaked beneath my weight, groaning like the house resented my return. Halfway up, I thought I heard something beneath the stairs, breathing, slow and wet, like lungs full of tar dragging in one last, gurgling gasp. I didn't look down. I reached the landing and stood before the mirror. A new whisper greeted me. What is buried must be seen. And then I felt the floor drop beneath me. There was no falling. One moment I stood on the second floor, facing the final mirror. The next, I was in a crawlspace. Or something like it. Low ceiling. Dirt floor. Cracked wooden beams like broken ribs over my head. No light, no way out, just the smell of soil and rot and memory. The air buzzed with tension, like a storm trapped in my lungs. Something moved just ahead of me. A shifting beneath the dirt. Slow. Sinister. Alive. Then I heard the scratching again. That same rhythmic drag of claws across wood. But now it wasn't coming from the walls. It was coming from beneath the floorboards I stood on. A voice rose from the dark. "He's still down here." The dirt bulged in front of me. A hand burst through, gray, bloated, nails long and splintered. Then another. Then a face, rising slowly like something remembering how to breathe. But it wasn't him. It was me. The thing crawling from the earth had my face. Not like the warped reflections from earlier, not distorted. Perfectly me. Except older. Tired. Hollow-eyed. His mouth hung open, not gasping, but grinning. Skin pulled tight like wax. He looked at me like he'd been waiting a long, long time. "I stayed," he rasped. "I played the last trial." I backed away, heart pounding. What is this?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just reached into the ground again and pulled something free. A mirror shard. Blood slick. Reflective. He held it up to me, and in its surface, I saw everything I'd been running from. My divorce. My failures. The loneliness that clung to me like a second skin. I saw myself sleeping in the empty bed. Eating alone. Crying in the dark, pretending I was fine. "This is your house," he said. "You built it. Brick by brick. Regret by regret." "No," I whispered. This house found me." "But it stayed," he smiled. "Because you never left it. Even when you walked out of your old life, you carried it with you. The guilt. The loss. The rot." He stood up, tall now, towering over me. "You're not escaping it." He reached forward and pushed the shard into my chest. I woke up screaming. Flat on my back in the hallway again. The final mirror stood cracked behind me, gold frame splintered, black glass webbed with fractures. On the floor beside me was the locket. And next to it, a note. Not old. Not faded. Fresh. Written in a child's shaky scrawl. "You can't bury something that's still breathing." The house was quiet again. No whispers. No guests. But everything felt off. Wrong angles. Walls slightly too close. My reflection in the foyer mirror stared a little too long. Blinked a little too slow. And sometimes at night, I swear I still hear the scratching beneath the floorboards. The final trial was over. But the house? The house wasn't done. After the third trial, I didn't sleep for days. I tried. God knows I tried. I took sleeping pills, drank whiskey, played white noise. But every time I closed my eyes, I felt the house lean closer. Not like a place I lived in, like a thing that lived around me. Watching. Waiting. Breathing just under the floorboards. And then came the night without time. It started with the clocks. All of them, on the microwave, the stove, my wristwatch, froze at the exact same moment, 3:11 a.m. Again. Even my phone refused to budge. I tried restarting it. Nothing. The screen flickered, then locked in place. 3:11. Seconds stopped counting. Minutes refused to pass. The whole house fell into a kind of suspended breath, like it was holding me hostage inside that single second. And outside, the world was gone. No birds. No headlights from the highway. No glow from the street lamps. Just blackness beyond the windows, like someone had painted over the sky. That's when I noticed the doors had vanished. All of them. The front door. The back. The hallway entrances. Every doorway I passed was now just a stretch of wall, seamless. Solid. Like they'd never been open. The mirrors had returned, though. Each one glowing faintly. Beckoning. leading me to the stairs, to the attic. The climb felt longer than before. The creaks beneath my feet dragged like someone was pulling the house down into the earth, plank by plank. And at the top, waiting at the end of the hall, was a new door. One I had never seen before. It was tall, arched, made of black wood and iron. A single word was carved into it in jagged, bleeding script. Return. I pushed it open. And I stepped inside the last room. It wasn't part of the house. Not really. It was like standing inside a memory that had been forgotten on purpose. The floor was smooth obsidian. The walls shimmered like oil, changing with every blink. Sometimes they looked like wood. Sometimes like bone. At the far end stood a man in a mirror. Not a reflection. A man. Trapped within. And he had my face. Again. But this time, it wasn't tired or warped. It wasn't decayed or possessed. It was calm. Still. Empty. You came back, he said. Who are you? I asked. He smiled. I'm who you become if you stay. I passed the trials. Yes. But the house doesn't test for victory. It tests for ownership. I stepped closer. His eyes followed mine with a kind of knowing sadness. This house, he whispered, was never haunted by ghosts. It was haunted by regret. Yours. Lillian's. His. He pointed down. To the black floor beneath me. 100 shapes stirred in the dark. Faces. Mouths. Screaming, but soundlessly. Replaying their final moments over and over. All of them played the game. All of them stayed. I turned away. I want out. You still can, he said. But you have to leave everything. He held up his hand. The locket rested in his palm. She tried to leave it behind, he said. But she never let go. And you? I made the house. With my fear. With my sorrow. It grew around me like a shell. You broke it open. Then his face cracked. Not with pain. Not even with sadness. With relief. I think, he whispered, you were the last piece. The room began to shake. The floor fractured beneath me. The walls folded inward like dying lungs. And the man in the mirror. He vanished. Along with the mirror. Along with the house. I woke up on my front lawn. The real one. Grass beneath my back. Dawn rising in the sky. Birds chirping. The house behind me was dark. Empty. Lifeless. And there, beside me in the grass, was the locket. But it was open now. And empty. No photo. No name. Just silence. It's been 3 weeks since I woke up on that lawn. The house hasn't made a sound. No creaks. No scratches. No whispers from the walls. I've walked every inch of it, top to bottom, searching for signs that any of it happened. The attic room is gone. The final mirror shattered. Even the wallpaper's clean. But still, I haven't left. Not really. Because something's wrong with the air now. It's too still. Too perfect. Like the house is playing dead, and I'm just one wrong breath away from waking it up. And every morning, at exactly 3:11 a.m., my phone screen lights up. No call. No alarm. Just the clock. Frozen. Waiting. Today, I found something in the crawlspace. I don't know what pulled me down there, curiosity, maybe. Or guilt. Or that quiet voice that never fully faded after the trials. I took a flashlight. Crawled beneath the house like an animal. The dirt was dry now. No scent of rot. No shifting shadows. Just earth. And then I saw it. A box. Wooden. Small. Sealed with iron nails. I didn't remember it being there. When I pried it open, my heart nearly stopped. Inside was the photo from the locket. Lillian. 11 years old. Eyes wide and bright. But this time, she was smiling. A real smile. Like she'd finally been let go. Beneath the photo was a note. Faded. Torn. Written in a hurried, looping hand. You gave it back. He can't follow you now. But the house. The house still remembers. I put the photo back inside and closed the box. I didn't take it with me. Some things belong to the past. And some things should stay buried. That night, the house creaked for the first time in weeks. Just once. A single, long sigh, like it had shifted in its sleep. I stood in the hallway, listening, staring at my reflection in the foyer mirror. And for a second, I wasn't alone. Not in the house. Not even in my own skin. My reflection blinked slower than me again. Then smiled. Not cruelly. Not menacing. But knowingly. You don't walk away from Oldergrove Lane. Not completely. Because you never really own a haunted house. It owns you. Piece by piece. Memory by memory. And when it's done, it waits for the next guest.